Thank you for joining us for this segment of The City That Serves. Today we'll be meeting Bill Willett, the Codes Enforcement Officer for the City of Fort Oglethorpe, and how his position is so important to helping the citizens maintain properties and our property values and economic development here in the city. So stay tuned and let's meet Bill Willett. Thank you for joining us for this segment of The City That Serves. I'm Council Lady Paula Stennett, and today we have a special presentation from our Codes Enforcement Officer, Mr. Bill Willett.
Good morning, Paula.
Good morning, Bill. Codes Enforcement Officer, what in the world are codes and why do we need them?
Codes cover a lot of things. Codes are established to protect the citizens of Fort Oglethorpe. We have guidelines that will help them to maintain property value, the beautification of the city, and so we have to have those codes in place to be able to have the citizens go by certain standards to live.
So these codes are put in place to protect all the citizens and their properties so that if you have one citizen who may not maintain property as well, it doesn't affect other citizens and their properties.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Well, that's a great thing because I know unfortunately things happen. And if someone should get into a circumstance where their health or something else prohibits them from being able to take care of their property, are there avenues that they can take?
Well, first of all, what we try to do is we try to find those citizens, and a lot of time it's the senior citizens that do not have family members, cannot help themselves, and we give them enough time to try to get help to get their property to code standards. Unfortunately, we have a couple of houses in the city and senior citizens that are not able to help themselves, so we're struggling with those a little bit. But we try to find every avenue and every resource we can, and the last resort we want to do is cite someone to court.
Right.
And unfortunately, we may have to do that to some.
As a last resort,
As
of
a last
course.
resort.
Because we work with citizens, we help citizens, and by helping those citizens, we are helping all citizens.
That's correct.
So it is a really good job that you do here, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's summer. And of course, spring, summer, and fall are the seasons of yard sales. And I know my family, we have yard sales, and it's an important way of cleaning out the closet, cleaning out the garage, etc., and getting rid of things that we have over accumulated. What do we have to do to have a yard sale here in the city?
In the city of Fort Oglethorpe, you're required to have a permit before you start your yard sale. In some cases, folks don't know this, and they place signs on Battlefield Parkway, advertising their yard sale or in the paper, and you have to obtain a permit, and it's cost-free.
Cost-free?
No charge.
No charge for these yard sale permits at all.
That's correct.
Where would one obtain a permit for a yard sale?
You would come to City Hall and see Andrea for a permit.
Okay.
Now, again, these permits do not cost anything, but you're also allowed to have 3 permits a year per
Okay.
resident. And it is in place to eliminate excessive yard sales. It also helps us keep a track of who's having them. And so you just have 3 a year.
Okay, so 3 yard sales per year maximum per residence, and you may obtain your permit at 500 City Hall Drive here in Fort Oglethorpe. That is Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Permits are free. Please come in advance and obtain your permit before having a yard sale. All right, we just talked about homes. And of course, spring, summer, and fall, grass grows. What do we do about our lawns? How high is too high for grass?
Above the ankle should be a measure for anyone that their yard needs cut. Unfortunately, folks, if it rains, we have a rainy season, can't get to it, grass grows fast, especially when it rains and in warm weather. So then when it gets close to the knee, you need to make some type of effort to cut the grass and keep it at a minimum of 1 to 2 inches. The reasoning is we have sightings of a lot of raccoons in the area, which is a danger to our citizens. They carry rabies. Also, tall grass attracts unwanted rodents, snakes. We had a report yesterday that someone saw a coyote. Now, this is wildlife that's roaming, and if they're in search of food. And so when they see tall grass, or it's just a natural habitat to them, it's a hiding place for them during the day, and at night they begin their prowling and their roaming. So we need to keep grass low. We also need to stay away from any wild animal, especially raccoons. They can attack you. So I want to encourage the citizens not to attempt to approach any of these wild animals.
Oh, of course. Grass grows, we cut it, like you said, with the weather, it gets high, and there's all these clippings everywhere. And what are we supposed to do with these clippings?
Well, first of all, you want to cut your grass or your lawn toward the residence to avoid grass clippings from going into the roadway. It is a problem. First of all, let me say that we are under the Clean Water Act in the state of Georgia. We also are regulated to meet standards set forth by stormwater, which is federal government. Grass clippings have a tendency to, when it rains or someone washes their car, move with the flow of water, and the water flows to the catch basins, and the catch basins clog up with grass clippings, leaves, and rubbish or trash. So we encourage folks not to cut their grass, and if they do, toward the road, and if they do, please, without being a danger to anyone or to themselves, get the grass clippings, blow them back into the lawn.
Okay, or bag them. They can bag them and set them out, and the city will pick them up.
That's correct.
Right, on the side of the road, I believe the city picks up a couple of times a month for grass clippings, lawn debris. So, don't let your yard get too high. Maintain it at a beautiful lawn height, a little above the ankle maybe, if your grass is Zoysia bermuda, and collect your grass clippings so that they do not clog up our storm drains. Also with the leaves. Put your leaves in one area and the city of Fort Oglethorpe will pick them up. An important thing that is offered from the city to help homeowners keep their residences clean and to keep our storm drains free of debris and flowing. That's important to keep those storm drains flowing. If they are clogged up, we have a lot of problems, especially with heavy rains.
Let me add one more thing to that. If we go around daily and we inspect properties, or we look for residents that may not meet city code, and what we do is we send a letter, a letter, just a courtesy letter, explaining that their grass needs to be cut. And we usually allow 10 days, and we go back, and then we send a final notice, and again, the last resort is a citation.
Okay, and again, last resort. The city does everything possible, and you're a kind, smiling man, so you're not intimidating. You come to visit the residents and talk with them about maintaining their property. Like I said, a lot of times it's just citizens don't know. And mentioning the wild animals, we are so blessed to live next to the beautiful Chickamauga Battlefield Park, and wild animals are prevalent coming through the city. So please be careful to maintain your property so as not to attract those animals, because as Bill said, raccoons do carry rabies, and we must protect our citizens, especially the children and our other pets.
Correct.
All right, great, Bill. Every now and again, you inherit, or a car breaks down and it's not movable, or an old boat or something. The city has a code, an ordinance regarding vehicles and debris around the homes. What's that about?
That is considered by the ordinance as junk, and something I've learned about this job. You do not approach a person and call a pile or a car on jacks junk. That property belongs to that person, and it's valuable to that person.
One man's treasure is another man's debris.
That's correct. But what we try to encourage is to clean up around the property. If they have a vehicle that is not running, avoid placing it on jacks in the driveway or on the roadway. There's a couple of folks in the city that I've encouraged to move to the back of their property because they're working on them. But if you have a vehicle that's not running and it's been in the family for a decade or two and you do not have any plans with it, you might want to just put it in a prominent place on your property, sell it, move it, at least put it under a tarp. We want the city to be beautiful. We want the residents to be attractive. We have a lot of people that come through here looking for a place to live and to move to Fort Oglethorpe. And so we want to try to make the properties presentable and beautify the city.
Well, true. We want to attract residents to come to our city and know what a great city we have and all the wonderful amenities the city of Fort Oglethorpe does have to offer. And when they drive down the street and they think, oh, look at that beautiful house for sale, and then right next door is a house with the grass grown and junk or debris in the yard, and they say, oh, I don't want to live there. I don't.
Right.
And that takes that house off the market for them.
That's correct, and someone that has that situation can bring down someone else's property, including their own.
Exactly. That's so important that we are good to our neighbors. We
Correct.
practice that good neighbor constitution within each and every one of us to respect the others. All right. I love my puppy dogs. I have a couple. But I know that people sometimes, if a puppy dog is barking, especially at night, it really becomes a noise nuisance.
Noise nuisance. We have had a couple of complaints about that since I've been with the city of Fort Oglethorpe, September of last year. It's a barking, excessive barking. You have a right to your animal, to your dog, to your cat. But when it becomes a nuisance to your neighbors, then there is a code that we can cite you to court for having an animal or a dog that excessively barks and annoys people. Now, that would also involve animal control with Catoosa County. And so you could get 2 citations.
Oh dear.
So we just want to inform the people to, if you're going to have your dog, try to be conscious enough about your neighbor. They have a right just like you do. And so be considerate and try to help your dog not do that. And they do have things on the market that can eliminate.
Well, true. Don't be mean to puppy dogs. That's
No.
not what we're saying. But if Rover is barking, that means Rover sees something, needs something, or is trying to warn his master, hey, there's
Correct.
a problem here. So pay attention to your dogs. Take care of them. They love you unconditionally. That's the beauty of a dog, loves unconditionally. So maybe bring him in the house at night or give him a place of his own that he's comfortable. And by all means, for safety's sake, check when your doggy's barking. He's trying to tell you something and warn you because he does love you. So take care of your doggy, and that will take care of your neighbors as well.
If I may, I need to add also the leash law. The owner of the dog has to have and must maintain control of that dog. There was a lady recently walking down one of our roads here, and she nearly got bit by a dog, and I saw the whole thing. So we really need to be aware too, the leash law applies in the city just like it does in the state of Georgia.
True. So when running, and we have a wonderful outdoor community in the city of Fort Oglethorpe, that we have so many wonderful trails to walk on, safe streets, sidewalks, beautiful areas, park areas maintained by the city that everyone wants to get out and enjoy. So don't let your puppy dog be a nuisance to someone else or even a hazard to someone else as they are enjoying all the beautiful trails within Fort Oglethorpe. Keep your doggy on a leash, and if he's known to bite, maybe want to muzzle him as well. So it's all about sharing the city and being respectful of your neighbor. All right. And how many animals can you have? I said I have 2 dogs. My 2 doggies, I don't think it's too much for my big yard and an area for them to run and play, and it is fenced in. But how many animals would be too many animals?
Paul, I believe I read, and I believe it's no more than 5. We will have to double check that, but
No more than
no
5.
more than 5.
And that's kitty, cats, puppy dogs,
Correct.
fish.
Fish doesn't count.
Fish maybe not. How about a goat and a chicken?
Livestock is not permitted in the city of Fort Oglethorpe, and that includes waterfowl, birds of prey, exotic animals. Those are prohibited. You are allowed to have a dog and a cat.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, no tigers,
No
lions, tigers, and
tigers.
bears. Oh my. No.
No potbelly pigs. We've had some
Oh.
issues with that, so
Okay.
we can't have that.
I was unaware, potbelly pigs as well. Okay, because those were very, very popular at one time. A lot of people were acquiring potbelly pigs. How about my pet bunny rabbit from Easter?
Rabbits and ducks. We have some ducks that folks just just can't have them.
Oh, that's sad. Okay, so Easter bunny, please bring chocolate bunnies and candied eggs, but not real bunnies and chicks, because they are not allowed in the city. Chicks, correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes chickens will have diseases, and that's why we don't allow them in the city, because the diseases could spread to humans even.
Well, again, if you have these animals or this livestock and you have it in the back of your residence, it is going to also attract animals of prey, coyotes, raccoons, and these things we have to try to eliminate. We have to do our part. We're not going to be able to stop it all, but we have to do our part so that these animals do not find refuge in the city and populate.
Good point, because that could be a disaster for
It
someone
could
with
be.
a young child. Very much so.
I might add too on raccoons. If a raccoon establishes a place of residency on your property, animal control will not come out and pick it up.
Oh,
You have to hire a professional trapper, and the trapper has to be approved by the Natural Resources, Department of Natural Resources, and there are just a few that's registered with them in the state of Georgia. And I've had to call them for a senior citizen here in the city, and two of them live in Dalton, and they charge $50 a head to remove raccoons. So if you have a family of raccoons, multiply that,
by
and
$50.
it can be very expensive.
It could be very expensive. So, in the unfortunate instance that a family of raccoons or skunks, we do have skunks
Skunks.
living in the park,
That's correct.
set up residence at your home, it could be very costly. Make sure that you maintain your home to discourage animals, wild animals, from coming to your residence. And living near the park is such a blessing.
Correct.
Having that pristine environment to go and de-stress and walk, but we don't want to bring the residents of the park to our city. Excellent. Buildings and building permits and licensures. I mean, there's a lot of business license permits, a lot of those avenues that we don't necessarily deal with every day, but they're a big part of the city for all residents. Tell me about those.
Codes require that you have a licensed contractor if you're going to expand on your residence. Now, we're not talking about painting inside or out or anything like that. We're talking about enlarging the square footage of your home, adding electrical devices or receptacles or things like that. Has to have a permit. And the permit usually is between $60 to $70. They would say Andrea Catlett on that here at the city, City Hall. The person doing the contractor must be licensed in the state of Georgia. Not so much in the city of Fort Oglethorpe. We do honor contractor's license as long as it's the state of Georgia. Failure to obtain a permit before you start a job and you're discovered, the permit will double.
Oh dear.
So try to obtain. That includes just putting a roof on your house. This regulates people coming in, not fly-by-night people, that can take advantage of our citizens. When you receive a permit, it requires a certified contractor who carries insurance and has a legitimate business. We have had people come through the city, knocking door to door, offering to do roofing and what have you. We discourage that. Make sure they have a license They're a licensed contractor with insurance and the tools of trade to do that. Not just someone that says they can do it and not know how.
Right, and this is for our citizens' protection.
That's correct.
When people come knock on the door, knock, 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 hey, I do this kind of work, you need this done to your property. And so many times we've heard of people paying these people, even half up front, and the people are gone. Or the people do such bad work that the citizen is stuck with double the cost to repair and replace what these fly-by-nights do. So a legitimate contractor will be able to show the citizen his or her license as a contractor, and then once hired for the job, can come to the city, obtain a permit for doing the job for the citizen, and then they are held liable, their insurance, etc., and the city does have a record of that contractor should something unfortunate occur to the citizen's residence.
Most of the contractors know beforehand they have to obtain a building permit and they have to show that they have a license in the state of Georgia or in the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Recently, we've had 2 seniors that were approached by door-to-door solicitation, which is also not permitted. I'll say something about that in just a moment. However, they convinced a senior citizen to allow them to cut a tree down and gave them a story of they were hungry, had children, had no job, and they needed the money. They cut a large tree down in this lady's yard and then moved it to the road for the city to pick up. And the city will not pick up any contracted tree cutting job. If it falls on the ground and you move it to the road because of an act of God or something, a dead tree, and it's on your property, and you do it yourself and move it to the road, the city will pick it up. If it's contracted out, the city will not pick up that tree or any brush.
Okay, that's the difference between a citizen doing his or
Correct.
her own work, moving it to the road, debris, trees, shrubs, grass, leaves, as opposed to contracting an individual. The individual should include in his or her contract to the citizen the removal of the debris.
I want to say something about door-to-door solicitation because we do have folks that come in from various locations claiming to be a legitimate business and trying to work their way into the residence of especially senior citizens or someone that just is not aware and is gullible enough to let them in. This is a good tool for folks to get robbed.
Yes.
You must obtain a permit by the city of Fort Oglethorpe before any 1 or 2 people can go door to door. When they receive that permit, the city has ran a criminal history on that person, has all the pertinent information, name, age, height, weight, description, a phone number of contact in case there is a problem. If they do not have a permit and you are in question, call Fort Oglethorpe Police Department. You may be helping catch a burglar or a scam artist.
Good advice, Bill, because so many times these people do come with a sob story, and I'm kind-hearted, I want to help everybody, but nowadays you really have to be careful because so many people are out there and they're looking for individuals to take advantage of.
That's correct.
And that's another way the city is protecting you, the citizen. So if someone knocks on your door and wants to sell you a service, wants to do some handiwork for you, if they do not have a permit, contact the Fort Oglethorpe Police Department. That person is in violation of the law, and as Mr. Willett said, may or may not be a bad person, but definitely needs to know that it is inappropriate to solicit services in Fort Oglethorpe without a permit. That's another way the city is protecting the citizens here from people who may or may not be legitimate. That's good advice, Bill, because we want to protect our citizens. And definitely our police department is first in front line to do so. We know that because they are very active in everything that occurs here in the city. So great advice.
I've got to cover one more thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, there is a problem I was going to say a while ago about yard sales. A lot of folks don't know this, but we want to educate these folks. You cannot place a sign on Battlefield Parkway. That includes utility posts. The reason being, you have to have a permit to place a sign on Battlefield Parkway. That sign has to have blueprints of what type of sign, location of sign, how tall, how wide, what it's going to look like, and there's a series of steps to obtain a permit to have a sign on Battlefield Parkway. We have 100,000 plus vehicles that travel the Parkway daily. We want to keep it attractive. We want to draw business to the area, which means jobs for local citizens and more revenue for the city. And when you have signs posted on the Parkway, and I spend an hour a day removing some of these signs, and then I contact the person that put them there and give them a fairly stern warning, the second offense, they will be cited to court. So please do not post any type of sign, yard sale signs, estate sign on the Parkway.
Okay, good advice, because so many times people just forget to remove those signs, and the next thing you know, we've got all these signs up and down the Parkway hanging on the poles, which is not good for the poles to have all those nails in them, and they become clutter. So
That's right.
Good advice for keeping the Parkway clean. Again, trying to keep our city as clean and beautiful as possible to attract visitors, tourists, and future residents to come into the city,
Sure.
and to make us proud of the city which we live.
That's correct.
Good advice for yard sales. No signage on the Parkway, please, in regard to yard sales or any other activity without first checking with City Hall, located at 500 Battlefield Park, 500 City Hall Drive, and make sure that you are in regulation and don't violate any codes, because you don't want Bill to be knocking on your door for something unfortunate. Bill, thanks again for joining me today. And
Thank you, Paula.
it's a pleasure working with you. And God bless America. And as always, it's a great day to be in Fort Oglethorpe. I hope you enjoyed this segment of The City That Serves and all the important information that Codes Enforcement Officer Bill Willett gave to us today regarding our properties, the values of our properties, and the importance of maintaining the properties for business development, economic development, and all-important happiness of all the residents here in the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Please stay tuned for more information on your PEG channel. God bless America, and as always, it's a great day to be in Fort Oglethorpe.